if you think about normal parenting, the first 6 to 7 years of life, you're really teaching them values. Maybe the next 6 or 7, you are teaching them how to navigate the world. And those last 5 or 6 years, you're just keeping them alive.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You're setting boundaries to keep them
Teenage
alive.
years, yes.
When you're dealing with an alienated child, man, all bets are off because that pattern doesn't fit anymore. They have learned values that you're appalled by, so you're going to want to right away undo all of these bad values that they've acquired around relationships. And you just can't do that with your parenting. It can only be done through building trust.
Yep.
To the point where the child can see that you're not a threat to her or her other parent, that you really do love her unconditionally, even when she says, I hate you. Hey, this is Diane Dirks.
And I'm Rick Voiles.
We've been working with co-parents in conflict for more than 2 decades. We've taught classes, written books, counseled parents, empathized and agonized a few times to help people make sense of their complicated families.
We were talking one day and it occurred to us that helping the most difficult cases comes down to one simple concept. Is one parent willing to let go of the tug-of-war rope, or is it worth it to hold on and fight?
So we invite you to take this journey with us each episode as we tackle the questions, should you hold on or let it go? Welcome to Co-Parent Dilemmas, where we give you practical solutions to those impossible co-parents. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Diane.
It is a new day.
It is.
Yes, even though we already did one of these this morning. Oh, I wasn't supposed to tell.
That's right. We changed our clothes and everything.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's talk about 2025.
All right.
What are your New Year's resolutions?
Oh, I don't do New Year's resolutions.
Why?
Because I don't like the guilt they produce when I don't do them.
Yeah, I'm not a big resolution person. Throughout the year, I set goals for myself.
Yes.
Like, it's funny, my husband, when he wants to lose weight, he'll say, it'll be like the 20th of the month. Yeah, on the 1st, I'm going to start that new diet. And I'm like, well, why don't you start it today? Oh, well, I can't start anything on the 20th.
Right. I'm going to do all my cheat days up front, and then I'm going to
Or
stop.
It's after vacation, after the holidays, after, there really is no time to do it. It kind of reminds me when people are thinking about divorce, they try so hard to pick the right time. What will be the right time for the kids? Oh, you can't do it around the holidays. Oh, we can't do it then because it's right before vacation. Oh, we can't do it on Valentine's Day. Oh, we can't do it around their birthday. Oh, and it ends up being there's really no good time of the year to break the news to the children that you're getting a divorce.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing. So, but if I were to say I had a New Year's resolution, it would be that I'm going to try not to be so busy. I semi-retired, and then I picked up all these volunteer things, which I'm enjoying. But now I'm finding myself busier than when I was working. So now I have to kind of figure out how am I going to back down a little bit from that so I can actually feel retired.
Right.
Interesting. So that's just my nature.
Mm-hmm.
I always have to have 10 plates spinning or I don't feel effective for some reason.
Just on the edge of chaos.
Man, when I get the 11th plate going, I'm thinking, whoa, something's gone awry. And then they start dropping and crashing. And then I feel guilty. So I've got to change my pattern.
I wish you the best of luck with that in 2020.
Yeah, I probably won't do it. I just like to be busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to be creative. And I'm always thinking, what can I do to create? So that makes me happy. And then I get unhappy when it's too busy.
Yes, just enough makes me happy. Too much makes me grumpy.
I have a hard time balancing that. But anyway. So nothing to share about the new year, Rick? You're just going to keep on doing what you do, nose to the grindstone, nothing new.
It's gotten me this far. So.
Oh, you're no fun. Okay. So again, I know we mentioned this in our last episode, but I want to mention it again. Still don't have a date yet. or we did, maybe by the time this airs, I will have published a date to everybody, but still am looking for people to attend our pediatrician/family doctor meeting with us over Zoom, where we're going to talk about how the medical community can support high conflict co-parents.
Yes.
Because we know it's very difficult to integrate a medical professional into that relationship. And they end up getting caught in the middle between the two parents about what they really said or what they're really advising for the child's health needs. And it can be crazy. And we've done an episode on this before, how medical professionals could do things a little bit differently that maybe they're not taught in medical school about this.
Right.
But if they want to avoid getting called into court, they could do some preemptive, proactive things for co-parents who have some conflict to kind of help them. So our idea was that we bring some parents into the room to talk about some of their experiences so that medical professionals can understand it from the other point of view. And I want to give our VIP listeners first dibs. So if you're a VIP listener, let me know that you want to be part of the meeting. And if you want to be a VIP, go to patreon.com/CP Dilemmas. You can also find that link in the show notes. For $10 a month, you can become a VIP. You get special invitations like this to meetings. Every Wednesday, we do a Hump Day Help group where we are there to answer your questions. You can talk to other parents about what's going on in your co-parent life and that kind of thing. So we hope that you will do that. Anything else for 2025?
Nope. Not that I can think of.
Besides your slothful way of living life.
No, sloth is good. It's my national animal.
So I have a really cool good news story. Do you like Legos?
I do like Legos. Yes.
I do too. Do your grandchildren have 1,000,000 Legos?
More than 1,000,000.
I know. My oldest granddaughter has like these bins in her room and they're just full of Legos, and I don't think they're organized very well. And I often thought if she wanted to build something, I don't know how you would find the things.
Exactly.
Anyway, this has been in force for about 5 years, but Lego is celebrating its success for its flagship sustainability initiative called Replay, which allows consumers to ship used and unwanted Lego bricks back to the company for redistribution to others. We first reported on Replay's launch in 2019, and 5 years on, there have been 1,229,072 pounds of Lego bricks donated to the program, which has distributed them to almost 400,000 children over the last 5 years.
Wow.
That's over 300 million individual bricks filling 190,000 distributed Replay sets, all being reused and reloved rather than thrown in a landfill. The vast majority hand them down to their children or grandchildren, but others have asked us for a safe way to dispose of or donate their bricks. With Replay, they have an easy option that's both sustainable and socially impactful. I think that's really cool.
That is cool.
So if your kids have outgrown Legos, for instance, and you really don't know what to do with them, I guess you can just put them all in a big giant garbage bag and send them off to Lego.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a link in this story. As always, I'll put the link to the good news story in the show notes. And if you want to donate Legos, do that. Don't put them in the trash. Okay. Today we're going to share a story. This is from Ben. And what I liked about this question is that, we've been talking a little bit lately about reunifying. I think I mentioned last episode that we want to do a show with people that have reuniting stories after parental alienation, because we really want to give people some hope in 2025.
Yeah.
And I got this story where he didn't go into a lot of detail about how the reunification came about, but he has been given primary custody after the court determined there was parental alienation. And the question, I think, is now what? Because things don't just get automatically fixed, do they, Rick? When a
No.
child is removed from an alienating parent and just given to the other parent,
Nope.
they don't just go, yay, now I get to see that parent I hated so much for 3 years. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yep.
it's usually very, very trying. So Ben, I really appreciate that you sent this to us because we sometimes forget. We focus so much on the reuniting that we forget about the aftermath. And there
Exactly.
is an aftermath. And if you're not careful, like we talked about last episode, remember we talked about Kristen's issue with dad coming back in the son's life after 9 years,
Mm-hmm.
how you have to really take care not don't try to wing it on your own because it can go poorly if you don't do the right things and do it well. So, Rick, why don't you go ahead and read Ben's email to us?
Very good. Hi, Diane and Rick. I hope this email finds you well. I'm reaching out to see if you might be interested in discussing a challenging co parenting situation I'm currently facing on your podcast. I'd like to remain anonymous, but believe this issue could resonate with some of your listeners. Here is a brief description of the situation. After years of dealing with co parenting difficulties, a judge recently granted me full custody of my 11-year-old daughter due to concerns about parental alienation and other harmful dynamics in her mother's home. My daughter is understandably upset and blames me for the challenges, even though her mother's behavior was the driving factor. To complicate matters, the court issued a no contact order for a couple of weeks between my daughter and her mother, which adds to her feelings of anger and confusion. I'm trying to navigate this transition while prioritizing my daughter's emotional well being, rebuilding our relationship, and following the court's directives. However, I'm struggling with how to balance enforcing boundaries with showing compassion for her feelings and maintaining hope for co parenting in the future.
Hmm. Now, he said he wanted to remain anonymous, so Ben is not his real name, but I wanted
Correct.
to give him a name. So we're not just saying that guy.
And we don't believe we've accidentally given him his real name.
I hope not.
No.
Okay. We did. We're sorry. Um, there's a couple of things that stand out to me practically that I want to address first before we address, I think, what his main question is. Um, First of all, if the court has determined that mom is an alienator, then I'm going to believe Ben when he says she has been alienating, right?
Now, the court believed it. Yeah.
Enough to say there's a no contact order, which tells me they didn't like what they saw and heard, and we're going to do something about it. But I have a huge problem with what they did. Now, he doesn't go into he talked about court directives, and I don't have the whole thing, so I don't know what they did. But what good is a 2-week no contact order going to do between daughter and mom?
Exactly.
So I hope there are other directives in
Yeah.
the order that has something else happening. But what really needs to happen probably is a 90-day limited contact order and involving a reunification therapist who
Yes.
only allows the mom to talk to the daughter via, Zoom or something like that while the therapist is in the room to
Yeah.
monitor mom and daughter's conversation while that therapist is working with mom about what she's done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Can this mom be rehabilitated? Does she understand what she did wrong? How pathological is it? If she was feeling I was just protecting my daughter, can the therapist get into that protection idea? What were you protecting her from? And is it possible that you hurt her more through
Right.
the protection? Is this mom going to be able to, and I would hope the court institutes something like that so that the therapist can go back to the court and say, yeah, I think mom's making progress, or I don't think mom's ever going to make progress, because that's important. Once the court says this is alienation,
Mm-hmm.
you can't just throw the kid at dad and then go, well, hope all goes well now that you have custody. So I really hope and pray, Ben, that the court has also put a professional in the midst of this, but I don't think a 2-week break for mom is going to do much.
No.
It needs to be like 90 days. Maybe 30 days, completely no contact, so the therapist can do some heavy intervention in the first 30 days.
With mom.
And that with mom, and then maybe start to incorporate the daughter into conversations in front of the therapist.
Yeah.
Right. And then maybe a supervised visit or two in the next 60 days or something. This idea that we're just going to, it sounds like the judge just slapped the mom's hand and said, you're not going to see your daughter for 2 weeks now.
Yep.
So
that's punishment. That's not productive.
Right. Yep. So that's my first issue or problem. What else? One of the things he said at the end is maintaining hope for the co-parenting in the future. I hate to break it to you, but there's probably not much hope.
I totally agree. Yes.
For any cooperative co-parenting.
No, not at all.
So I also hope somehow the directives of the court were to engage a parenting coordinator to help you with parallel parenting with very, very limited communication between you and the other parent. Now, we've seen situations, Rick, where the parent was alienating, but that was not his or her goal.
True.
They really believed they were protecting
yes,
my child from the other parent's alcoholism or, the abusive step parent that was involved, so we've seen situations where it makes sense that parent would want to protect their child. And in the process of that, effectively turn the child against the other parent.
Yeah.
Those situations can be remedied if you can get that alienating parent to understand how their behavior was unproductive. Even if you don't like the other parent's behavior, you can't take it upon yourself to try to control it, or the court won't like it. And, maybe this is enough of a wake-up call for Ben's ex to go, oh, okay, I really do want to do it differently. I don't like being out of my child's life. I don't know. But if it's pathological, meaning that this parent probably has a personality disorder, this parent purposely and very manipulatively set out as a campaign to make sure that she got in the middle of her child and the other parent's relationship and destroyed it, it's hard to come back from that.
Right.
That mom is going to have a huge epiphany. It has to hurt enough for somebody to want to change and be different.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen that very often, have we, Rick? When it's that pathological. And I'm assuming it is, because by the time the court gets involved and puts in a no contact order, I suspect, and I don't know because Ben didn't tell us, they've already maybe had a reunification therapist involved up to this point. And it failed because the alienator was just not going to have it. And maybe the court finally just said, that's it, we're done, no contact.
Yeah.
2 weeks isn't going to fix it. And it'll just go back to the same old thing once mom re-engages with the child, unless the court involves a reunification therapist who will then report back to the court in 90 days to let them know whether they think there's hope.
Right.
Can this mom be rehabilitated? Can this mom change her ways? And it's very, very important for the reunification therapist to say, yes, she's making progress. She's acting like she's making progress, but I believe it. If I believe it yet, we might need more time. Or no, she's not even coming to the appointments.
Right.
The judge needs to hear, which is it? And there could be, all other kinds of options in between there. But if the judge doesn't hear that, he or she doesn't know then how to respond to the future of this child and to protect the child and the other parent from the alienation. So there is a process to this kind of thing. I just feel like the courts are often highly uneducated about it. And especially the attorneys are not educated about how do you can't just, a lot of times they employ a reunification therapist to fix it, quote unquote, fix it. Not about fixing it as much as evaluating the situation and can this parent do the work?
Yeah.
Is more important, because if reunification fails, what's the next step? This, and then what?
Right.
So we often hear that the court just gives the children to the other parent out of exasperation and then just says, good luck.
Yeah.
And they'll give the alienating parent every other weekend. Like they'll just switch the schedules. Well, all that does is allow the alienating parent to alienate on the weekends. And next thing you know, the kid's saying, well, I'm not going back to dad's. And then your mom's, and then they're back in court again.
Yep.
So it's really not a remedy. It's a Band-Aid that falls off pretty quickly. Right.
Yep.
So if there are any professionals out there listening, again, training is so very important, but also educating the attorneys in your area or the judges in your area about how important it is to do this well. Now, the big monkey wrench that gets thrown in there is money. Sometimes there's no money to do it.
No money. Yep.
Dad doesn't have the funds to pay for it. The other parent doesn't have the funds to pay for it. There's not a lot of pro bono reunification therapists because you'd be out of your mind to do it for nothing.
True.
It is the hardest work that anybody will ever do.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, mental work. I mean, there's a lot of hard work out there that people do.
Physically, yeah.
I think the hardest mental work I ever did was in these reunification cases, because you see children being abused right before your eyes and nobody will listen, or you can't get the parents to understand what's happening and how to respond. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very, you take it to bed with you at night.
Yes.
So those of you that hate on your reunification therapist, give them a little bit of grace, because they're probably losing sleep over your case.
I would say so.
Things are so difficult. So that's kind of my soapbox about that. But Ben, I really hope the court is doing more than just giving mom a 2-week break, because that's not going to do anything effective if there aren't other things put in place to monitor mom's behavior and then report back to the court whether or not mom is complying. And if not, the judge needs to do drastic things.
Yep.
It's got to hurt enough for that personality disorder person. Maybe they can't change, but they can fake it.
Yeah. Right.
They can agree that they won't say horrible things to their kid about the other parent. Just stop doing it, or else you're not going to have your child, So, well, again, I hope that happens. Hey, listeners, you've heard me talk about the daily devotional for frustrated co-parents that I'll be releasing January 1st. Some of you have responded with interest in a subscription, so thank you. Starting this week, you can officially subscribe online. Since the holidays are near, consider giving yourself the gift of daily faith encouragement, as well as a few tips and skills from my archives thrown in there. You might also know someone on your gift list who could benefit. If so, check out the links in the show notes. And happy holidays. So let's get to, I think the crux of his question is there's so much to balance here.
Yes.
All this emotional stuff. He doesn't say how long he went without seeing his daughter, without being a parent in her life effectively. And he doesn't say much about his own parenting values, where they came from. So I think I'm going to sort of talk from our experience of what we've seen in people, and then maybe something we say will hit on, resonate with him, and hopefully resonate with other listeners. Does that sound like a good plan?
It does.
So, as much as I don't want to, I have to sort of project onto him some things from my experience, because we don't have enough information and I can't ask questions. But oftentimes what I've seen in these situations, you got a dad who was raised in a family where, this is how you do parenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my kids have been resisting me for months, years, and I've probably got my family in my ear.
Yep.
Well, you just tell her blah, blah, blah. Well, you just do you blah, blah. They have no clue how hard this is, right?
No, none. No experience, nothing.
Ben sounds like a decent guy, just wanting to do the right thing, probably has good parenting values, but he was raised by somebody, grandma and grandpa over here, saying, I would get that kid and whip her butt and get her in, no kid's going to
Right.
tell me I hate you. And
Go to your
Ben's
room.
going, yeah.
Dinner for you. Right.
Ben's going, oh, you don't get it. So first of all, Ben, we want you to know we get it.
Yes.
We get it. So I think you have to really kind of shut out all the voices and the noises. You may have friends who are dads who are saying, oh, my daughter did that. Over a beer, they're telling you how to parent. And you're like, oh, but, I don't want to be a wuss. But at the same time, you don't understand when I say things like that to her. She hates me more,
Yes.
So we're going to give you some things to say to her. And it's going to take a while.
Mm-hmm. A lot.
It's going to take a while. And so, Ben, I want you to get into your daughter's head a little bit. Did you say how old she was?
11.
11. Okay. Ooh.
I know.
This is middle school. This is like
right.
two very bad words.
Uh-huh.
This is a really hard time for her anyway.
Yep. And this window isn't as big as it could have been had it been earlier. Yeah, this is a small window before.
So the good news is she's young enough.
Yes.
If she was 14, it'd probably be
harder. Yep.
For Ben to build this trust. Because she's 11, it's a little bit easier.
Yep.
But she's just coming off that cusp of my parents are the greatest.
Yep.
My parents are the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Uh-huh.
But if she's truly been alienated, which I believe she has been since the court has declared it, her relationship with her mom is more chaotic than you probably can imagine in her little mind.
What are you thinking of?
Well, she is doing her mom's bidding by hating dad.
True.
But what kind of mental gymnastics has to happen for a kid to do that?
She may be, it may be a survival technique for her.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
So I want Ben to understand right away that what she has been going through mentally and emotionally with mom, the fact that she feels she has to so protect that, it's not healthy and it's self-destructive. And the shield is so strong around her because she feels like if she does not do what mom needs her to do, mom will not be okay.
Yeah.
I will not be okay. Our relationship will not be okay. And this is a do or die.
Yes. Survival.
Absolutely.
We're not just throwing the word out. Nope.
So, Ben, if you don't approach every parenting strategy with that in mind, you're likely to not be helpful.
Yes. And normal parenting strategies, you're not going to read any of this in a parenting book right now. So don't throw all those out, or at least supplement them with.
Right. And there are a couple of books out there that you can read, obviously Warshak's Divorce Poison. And there's a lot, if you want resources, let me know that you can read about this. But hopefully what we can do here is just give you a few practical phrases to say to her, because trust has been broken, not because of anything you have done, but because of what she believes you to be. You are a threat. You are a huge threat to her and her mother.
Right.
Not by anything you've done, but by how she's been indoctrinated.
Sees the world. Exactly. Yep.
Right.
Now, some people will tell you trust cannot be rebuilt. And I disagree with that definitive statement.
Yeah.
I have been in situations where trust has been rebuilt. It takes, like you said, Diane, it takes a lot of time.
Right. This may or may not be relevant. Over the holidays, I watched Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Okay.
Have you seen that recently?
Uh-uh.
Well, is it Dasher or Dancer was the father of Rudolph? One of those. He was really mean to Rudolph. Like, oh my gosh, my kid has a red nose. We're not going to have that. And he puts mud all over his nose, You find yourself as an adult therapist watching it like, well, that's just wrong.
That's abusive. Yeah.
Somebody call Deepax on this. then that wasn't bad enough, but obviously he went off because he became part of the misfits, right?
Mm,
But they encountered the abominable snowman. Remember the
I do.
abominable snowman? You know, what's the phrase in there? Bombles bounce or something. Remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay. Anyway, they were very, very scared of him until he realized that he was a misfit just like them, and eventually incorporated into the group. And they gave him a job, and his job was to put the star on the tree because he was so big and tall.
Uh-huh.
And when I talk about this monster thing, um, if you think of your child as that monster who feels like she has to defend and she's going to scare you to death with her until she realizes that you're one of them, she's like you feel as misfit as she does.
Mm-hmm.
That's what will build the trust. The abominable snowman became this cuddly teddy bear when he no longer felt like Rudolph and the Misfits were a threat, but they were really just like him.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Anyway, I don't know if that's completely relevant, but as I was watching that, that kind of went through my head. So Ben is going to have to not see her as the monster. And you said this earlier, Rick, when we were talking about it, and I want you to talk about it again. Another thing we know about parents like Ben is they also get very triggered by their child's behavior, especially if it's the same sex child. So your daughter is going to remind you a lot of her mother.
Yeah.
And how does that affect Ben's parenting, do you think, Rick?
Yeah, then Ben starts acting out of survival skills that he mastered before the divorce and during the divorce. And then you've got two people that are completely just missing each other with techniques, and it only exasperates.
It's called transference in psychological terms, and countertransference, meaning the child is going to say something to Ben that sounds just like her mother.
Mm-hmm.
Because as kids move towards the teen years, they can really resemble the other parent. They can resemble their voice, their mannerisms, the words they use. And he's going to think, Mom put those words in your head.
Yeah.
And kids hate that. Even though they are parenting the other parent's words, they hate it when you accuse them of not having their own brain.
Mind. Yep.
Yeah. What if that's my opinion and it has nothing to do with my mom or dad? That's my opinion, even though you're sitting there going, yeah, but it sounds exactly the same as what they would say, right?
Yeah.
They're going to defend that. So it's not going to do Ben any good to accuse her of just being brainwashed by her mom, or that's something your mom put in your head. It doesn't sound like Ben is that kind of guy, but there are parents out there that have a hard time with that.
Definitely.
Transference, countertransference, meaning they trigger you and then you trigger that you yell back as if that person is your ex when she's hurting. She's a misfit and she wants to know you're a misfit too.
Yes.
That we're in this together.
That's exactly right. So it's real easy to, the advice I give as a PC for a healthy person going forward is get the other parent out of your head. This is more so in this situation. Do not continue to think about the influence the ex has had. Do not continue to try to make things better by thinking, well, this is what mom has done. Mom's created this. This is all mom's fault. And if I can just get my kid to hear the truth, all the stuff from the past from mom will go away.
Yeah.
It will not.
Yeah. So keep your friends and family voices out of your ear and beware of viewing your child as the other parent.
Yes.
So psychologically, you have to prepare yourself for this task, which is monumental.
Yes.
You are climbing you're climbing Mount Everest.
Yep.
When you get up there, it's going to feel pretty darn good. But on the way up, man, you're going to be huffing and puffing and wondering if you're going to make it.
And on the way down, it will have all been worth it if you get to the top. Yep.
And when you get down there, you'll meet people that are on their way up and you'll encourage them.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the way it goes. So in an ideal world, Rick, the court would have employed or ordered a reunification therapist or somebody who knows what they're doing to work with this family. and would have a conversation with dad and daughter about what things are going to be like. So you don't say, now you're going to dad's, he's in charge, listen to him now, have a good life. You have to really understand that this daughter sees herself as smarter than dad, better than dad. Dad's just a piece of dirt.
Yep. She will attribute all kinds of negative attributes no matter what dad tries.
So a therapist has to say, okay, this is a court order now. All of us have to abide by it. Let's talk about the best way to do this and really get the daughter's input. And what is it you want? Well, I just want to stay in my room. I'm not coming out. Okay, let's negotiate that. You want to stay in your room most of the time, but you got to eat, you got to bathe. let's would it be okay if we do an hour in the morning that you spend at the breakfast table an hour, that you come up with ways where you say to the child, your feelings are important and we know this is really hard for you. We want you to have some buy-in, but you also don't want to be a prisoner in your dad's house. So let's figure out ways that you can interact and be okay with each other, because this is actually good for you to learn how to do this with friends, with other people, is to learn how to negotiate through. This is an entry into learning to negotiate and get a little of what you want, but also respect something of what somebody else wants.
Yeah.
They're not going to like it, but if you can set that up, and then we'll just do this till you see me again in a week or two, and dad has to be okay with that. His instinct is, are you kidding me? I've been seeing my kid for 3 years and now this is how it's got to be.
Right.
The answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
We are de-brainwashing a child. You don't do that overnight. How long did it take for her to get there? So you have to participate in this sort of de-brainwashing, or whatever the term would be, to kind of help her to start building trust with you again. But I don't know if that was the case with Ben. I don't know if he got any of that. So something tells me he's already had her for a few days and now he's exasperated. What do I do now?
He's on his own to figure it out, sounds like.
So if he's on his own, or those of you who find yourself in this situation and you're on your own, then sit down and have a meeting with your child before anything else happens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is hard for all of us. I am so happy that you're with me, but I know that you're really angry that you're with me, and I get that. So I haven't seen you for all these months or years, and that's been really hard on me. And I don't expect you, though, to feel sorry for me, but I've loved you since the day you were born. I still love you, regardless what anybody has told you. I've loved you all of this time. And if you want to talk about it, I'm happy to talk about it. If you don't want to talk about anything, that's fine with me too. You just kind of lay it out like we're both doing this together and it's going to be hard for both of us. And then try to set some ground rules. Let's agree we'll talk respectfully to each other. Let's agree that if you get really upset, rather than yelling and screaming, we'll take a break. And then, so there's ways that, and again, this is best done with a professional, but maybe again, there weren't resources to do that. So you have to kind of navigate it on your own. The more you can do proactively, the less reactive you have to be on the other end. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're going to make these rules and she's going to violate them because she can.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then you're going to just have to say, okay, well, maybe we need to renegotiate. If this is really hard, we'll renegotiate and see what else we can come up with. That's where the hard work comes in. And sometimes you have to do things you wouldn't normally do in your parenting.
Exactly. No.
Right.
In no parenting book will tell you to negotiate with an 11-year-old.
No. Well, you might negotiate some things, but not everything. Right.
No, right.
But, the win after the first week is that she didn't run away.
Yes.
If you think about normal parenting, the first 6 to 7 years of life, you're really teaching them values. Maybe the next 6 or 7, you are teaching them how to navigate the world. And those last 5 or 6 years, you're just keeping them alive.
Yeah,
right? You're
exactly.
setting
Yeah.
boundaries to keep them alive.
Teenage years. Yes.
When you're dealing with an alienated child, man, all bets are off because that pattern doesn't fit anymore. They have learned values that you're appalled by. So you're going to want to right away undo all of these bad values that they've acquired around relationships. And you just can't do that with your parenting. It can only be done through building trust
Yep.
to the point where the child can see that you're not a threat to her or her other parent, that you really do love her unconditionally, even when she says, I hate you.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's talk about that. When the child says, but I hate you, what does the normal parent want to do with that, Rick?
Punish. You can't say that in this house. There are rules and you've got to follow them, right?
No child of mine is going to say that to me.
Yep.
Yeah. And so again, the normal parenting rules don't apply because you have to get into this particular child's head, which is, I have to hate my dad. If I don't hate my dad, my mother can't love me.
Right.
And deep, deep in her soul, she knows even when she says, I hate you, you're going to love her anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
I know I have my dad's love, so I can say, I hate you 1,000 times and he's going to love me anyway. But if I don't say I hate my dad, or if it looks like I love my dad, or if I say anything good about my dad, I will lose my mom. It's pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do I maintain both parents? I hate my dad.
Yep.
So, in essence, Ben, the message you always want to send to the child is you don't have to hate me to love your mom. I've even had situations where I've told the parent, and depends on the situation, to tell the child, when you're here, you can love me and act like you love me, and I promise I'll keep it a secret.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is. I have to keep your love of me a secret. So when she says, I hate you, Ben's answer has to be something like, man, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine how it would feel to have to hate one of my parents because, grandma and grandpa, and I love them and they seem to love me. And I feel like they're part of my identity. And if I had to hate one of them, I think I would probably feel like I had to hate myself or part of myself. I can't imagine how that feels. I'm so sorry.
Mm.
And then at some point, I hope that you're able to say, let's play a board game. You don't have to love me to play a board game with me, or let's go shopping, or let's go out to dinner. You don't even have to talk to me.
Yep.
And all of those things can be very painful. But what you're saying to her is, I just want you to be a normal kid.
Yep.
And if we have to keep that a secret from people, that when you're here, you're a normal kid. If you need to tell your mom, all I did was stay in my room and I hated it, then go ahead. And that is really hard for parents who've been alienated to say.
Yes.
Because the anger that you feel towards the other parent, I can't even imagine. Because
right.
I've not been alienated from my kids, but I can't even imagine the anger you must feel of having lost the time with your child. And I know this because I've suggested these things to alienated parents who've gotten their children back, and their mouth is agape, and they're like, "What? I've got to suck up?"
Yes.
You can't think about it as sucking up. You got to think about it as, this is a wounded child.
Very much.
The wound is very, very deep. And the only way to begin to heal that wound is for her to see you as a misfit, just like she is.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even use that analogy. Your situation is so different from your friends. I bet you sometimes you just feel out of sorts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have been feeling that too. All of my friends have had time with their kids, and it makes me feel like I have a terrible parent because I don't. I bet you feel kind of weird because you have to have this weird relationship with your mom and me. And she may say nothing to that, probably won't say a word to that. But those are the kinds of things you say to her to build the bridge.
Yep.
You and I are very much alike. We have shared this experience. And it's not like the people that we're around. None of my parent friends have had this experience, and probably a lot of your teenage friends have not had the experience that you've had. It's hard. But you know what? We're pretty resilient. And no matter what happens, we're going to be okay.
Yep.
We're going to be okay. And you keep sending that message, that confidence that we're going to get through this. We're climbing Mount Everest right now, and it's really hard. But when we get to the top, it's going to be pretty cool. And my highest hope for you is that you'll be able to maintain your love with your mom. And even if it has to be a secret love between us, it's okay.
Yep.
It's okay. However you have to do that is okay. I just want
I
you
can
to
support
be okay.
that. I will support.
She's going to say for a while, the only way I can be okay is for you to not be in my life.
Right.
And slowly but surely you have to convince her that, no, I can be in your life and you can still be okay. Watch what happens over the next few months. You're going to realize, I know your mom and I know she loves you. And no matter what happens, she's going to love you. You just feel like she can't.
Yeah.
And she might even go away from you for a while, because that's what some of these alienating parents do.
Right. I'll show you.
But they come back because they have a desperate need
yep.
for their child. They have a desperate need.
That's why they started all this.
Yep. Right. But the kid doesn't feel that because of the threat.
Yep.
So as the stable parent, you have to keep sending the message that you just watch. Mark my words. We're going to take it one day at a time. In 3 months, you're going to look back and go, oh, gee, I'm here. Everything seems to be okay. And mom's still here. Everything seems to be okay. Maybe I'm going to be okay. But it's going to take more than 3 months. That's just the beginning.
Yep.
I think, Rick, probably in our average reunification case, I would say probably 18 months is a good... is a good period of working through some of the healing to where the child feels semi-okay about everything.
Yep. And I want to reiterate, I've been in this kind of a situation. And when we talk about it being hard, climbing up there, and Diane talks about going to dinner or doing things, and you don't have to talk to me, that the words I coined in my life to deal with it was I was putting myself in harm's way in order to be present when things did change.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ben, for your question. I appreciate it. And I hope that you can maintain your hope for your relationship with your daughter as you climb this mountain and put your co-parenting in perspective. Right?
Yes.
That's a temporary relationship, but this other one is permanent. So work on it. All right. Good talking with y'all. And we will chat again next week.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. The information contained in this podcast is generic. It must not be misconstrued as constituting legal or psychological advice. Decisions relevant to any specific individual, family system, or case require the direct evaluation of skilled, child-centered professionals.